This episode is sponsored by JMR Rentals, professional digital cinema and broadcast rentals in Brooklyn, New York. To find out more, visit their website, jmrny.com. Hello and welcome to No Rest for the Weekend, where we go behind the scenes and talk to the creators of independent entertainment. I'm Jason Godbey, and we're here with another edition of Indie Film News. Our top story today comes to us from IndieWire.com. Film and television production will be allowed to resume in California as early as June 12th. This is according to the guidelines issued by the state on Friday. Like rules for other industries, the okay to work will be given on a county-by-county basis, and they'll be using benchmarks like the rate of infection for COVID-19. The guidelines give a lot of leeway for the industry to come up and decide their own specific rules. California Governor Gavin Newsom's guidelines state, to reduce the risk of COVID-19 transmission, productions, cast, crew, and other industry workers should abide by the safety protocols agreed by labor and management, which may be further enhanced by county and public health officers. However, it's unclear if Los Angeles County will be able to get back to work on June 12th. There's still much for the industry to figure out before the guilds, the various guilds and unions, will be able to sanction getting back to work. So, according to the Association of Movie Producers and TV Producers, dozens of representatives from major guilds and the studio drafted a white paper that offers specific safety guidelines for scores of positions. This comes for testing rules, hygiene practices, and other recommendations. The industry's groups has sent this document to governors in all 50 states. Now, the producers, they say one set of rules will help alleviate pressures on individual producers. Otherwise, they'd have to figure out on a production-by-production basis what the guidelines are. And this may be a job that they're uncomfortable with and, quite frankly, not qualified for. So one set of rules will hopefully quell the confusion. And there are already upwards of 30 different pandemic production guidelines in territories around the world. Hopefully, this will set the record straight for America. HBO Senior VP of Production Jay Rowe said during a June 3rd webinar called A Guideline to the Guidelines, a discussion panel of potential COVID-19 procedures for worldwide physical production. It was meant to be a broad set of guidelines. There are still things to be sat down and negotiated and talked about in detail with the unions. The next beat is now really for the AMPTP to sit down with the unions directly and get into the minutiae of some of the things that were more broadly discussed in the white paper, such as testing, sick and paid leave, some protocols on the set. Lori McCreary, CEO of Revelations Entertainment, said, "Actors are the most vulnerable because they cannot be fully fitted up when we're shooting. They're going to be the most vulnerable on set. We want to work hand in hand with SAG-AFTRA." Indeed, the buy-in from SAG-AFTRA is widely seen as the linchpin to whatever plans are going to be to start production. Production executives say they're gearing up to address unprecedented problems that will continue to be a factor for years, and because of that, they say flexibility is key. Rules and guidelines will change as more information about coronavirus becomes available and will vary from production to production. So, what does this mean? This isn't over yet. There's still a lot of steps that need to take place, and before we get back to anything resembling normal. And the jury here in New York is, of course, still out. We don't know when we'll be able to get back to work, but hopefully we'll have some more updates for you that soon. The big concern is non-union productions, the productions that don't have unions and guilds to protect the actors and crew. I've even heard rumors about productions that have been going on during the pandemic. So I would urge anyone thinking of shooting, thinking of getting back out there to do some research, know the guidelines, abide by them. And I would also say when we can get back to work, just because the state says it's okay to work doesn't mean the virus goes away. So take precaution, be your own advocate. If you're on a set working and someone asks you to do something that you feel is unsafe, don't do it. And if you do have any questions, you can always, in terms of the disease itself, look at the Center for Disease Control's website, cdc.gov. Turning now to film festival news, this weekend marked the conclusion of We Are One, a global film festival. The festival included films from 21 film festivals from around the world. We managed to review some of the films, and you can find those reviews on our website. And I want to just give a quick thanks to Lauren Atkins and to William Hammond for their hard work. We will be doing some recap episodes. You can look out for those on a later date. And as reported on an earlier indie film news, the Katra film series went virtual on May 29th and 30th via the OTT network Footprint.tv. When we asked about going virtual, the executive director of the festival and friend of the show, Joffrey Guerrero, said, "There's nothing like seeing your film or web series that you spent countless hours on and shed many blood, sweat, and tears for being shown on a big screen. If it wasn't for the pandemic, we would have been back at the Alamo Drafthouse." In April, when it became obvious that we couldn't be in a movie theater, we started researching different platforms, and the good people at Footprint were friendly and open to working with us. The online series was challenging because you are not dealing with people in real time, and communicating virtually is difficult by its very nature. Everyone has different bandwidths and Wi-Fi connections, but people understand and are patient with what's going on. It's a new world we live in until we are back in a movie theater. The first ever virtual edition of the Katra film series was a success. I'm happy with the diverse and original selections our programming team put together for this special edition. For more on the Katra film series virtual edition, check out the recap by E.J. Argenio, now on the website. Of course, the biggest story has been the marches and protests across the world against police brutality. According to CNBC, more than 11 million Instagram posts on Tuesday featured the hashtag Blackout Tuesday as a means of showing solidarity with Black Lives Matter. Now, this is not a political show, and I've been careful to keep my own opinions on matters of social and political issues to myself. But, of course, politics and social issues influence the media. I feel like we'll be feeling the repercussions of this moment in American history for years to come, and I don't know if we can even fully comprehend the events that are happening now. We're living in strange, unprecedented times. It's the position of this show, as it always has been, to be on the side of humanity and human rights. Our rights as Americans to speak freely and to assemble, they're the backbone of this country and essential for our way of life and as a way to affect change. And to the protesters, I would say, we hear you and we support you. Last week, we had Joel Feinberg return to the podcast to talk about the opportunities that exist for creators in the wake of COVID-19. Great episode. Be sure to check that out. And this week, we've got James Oxford returning to the podcast. He'll be talking about the Tonkawa Film Festival, where he talks about the film festival, and he teaches me how to pronounce Tonkawa. As an update of that story, submissions are now open for the 2021 festival. For more on that, you can visit their website, tonkawafilmfestival.com. So that's all we have time for today. Thanks so much for taking this trip down the rabbit hole. For more content, including our movie reviews, visit our website, norestfortheweekendpodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe to this space and look for new episodes every Wednesday. Once again, I'd like to thank the folks at JMR Rentals for sponsoring this episode. And for Behind the Rabbit Productions, I'm Jason Godbey. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.